He's the manager of our wastewater management program, and also with us tonight is Nick Giannetti. Nick is the supervisor of our pretreatment program, and helping to drive the Teams link from Montpelier is Michelle Kolb, who's the supervisor of our direct discharge program, helping out tonight. So thanks to everyone for showing up. Just a little bit about tonight. So we're here to talk about the pre-treatment discharge permit. I spoke about this a little bit back in August when we had the community meeting. So this is the pre-treatment permit. It's a federal and PDES permit that the state of Vermont is authorized to issue, acting in place of the federal government here in Vermont. That pre-treatment permit is concerned with the leachate generated from the News VT landfill, both the treatment of it, the monitoring of it, and also the ultimate disposal of it. And Nick has a slideshow that he's going to walk through the major elements of that pre-treatment permit. But really, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear from all of you. So we're here to accept public comment on the draft permit that's out there right now. Nick will go over the schedule and also the ways that you can either comment tonight or provide written comment. But again, the focus of tonight is on the pre-treatment permit. I know there's a lot of concern, a lot of questions about the landfill itself, the siting of the landfill, various other issues associated with the landfill potentially. But again, tonight, really what we're here to accept comment on, and comment that we can respond to then in writing, when we will respond to all of the comments that we receive, either spoken comments tonight or written comments that we receive. We'll respond to all of those, but really, the sideboards on what we're able to comment on is going to be the pre-treatment permit. So, you're welcome to say whatever you would like during your 2 minutes, but really what we can respond to, and the purpose of tonight's meeting, is about the pre-treatment permit. When we were here in August, we covered a lot of ground, but one of the things that we noted, and a number of folks that attended also noted that was, despite the contention around the issue, was the polite and respectful manner that both us from the state and then also the folks attending the meeting observed on both sides of the issue, and we'd like to have that be the case again tonight. So we welcome your comment, we encourage you to comment, and we appreciate your attention to that. Nick's going to now talk a little bit about the agenda for tonight's meeting, and for folks that are on the Teams link, when we do accept public comment, we'll do much like we did back in August, where we'll alternate between folks in the room, folks on Teams. We have a sign-up sheet for those in the room, and we've asked those folks on Teams to sign up in the chat session that's part of Teams that they would like to comment. And we'll just go back and forth between the two. So with that, I'll turn the meeting over to Nick, and he'll walk through both the agenda for the meeting and then walk us through the major elements of the proposed draft discharge permit, the pre-treatment permit. So, Nick.
Hi, folks. As Pete said, my name is Nick Giannetti. I'm the pre-treatment coordinator for the state of Vermont DEC in the wastewater program. And today I'm going to give a quick overview of the News Vermont, or the New England Waste Services pre-treatment discharge permit. You'll hear me frequently refer to it as News or News VT, and that's just an abbreviation for the New England Waste Services Incorporated, which is the permittee for this draft permit. So we will start out today with a quick overview of the permit, hitting the major conditions of the permit, and I'll go into those in a little bit of detail. We'll go through the public notice information, so how you can make a comment today, as well as how you can make a written comment. Then we'll begin the comment session where you will come up today, and if you want to make a comment, you can come up here and you can speak your comment here into this microphone, and we'll be recording that comment and we'll respond to it. We do ask that you please limit your comments to 2 minutes because we have a lot of folks online and in person that do want to make a comment, and we're here until 7:30 today. We're happy to stay longer if necessary, but the public meeting is technically between 5:30 and 7:30. We want everyone to get an opportunity to provide their comment. And then for folks on Teams, please just mute your microphones unless you're called on to provide a comment. So I'll start with the permit overview. So obviously we're here for the renewal of the News VT pretreatment permit. This permit regulates the discharge of landfill leachate from 3 landfills to Vermont municipal wastewater treatment facilities. The 3 landfills are News Vermont, which is here in Coventry, there's the North Country Environmental Services landfill, which is in Bethlehem, New Hampshire. And there's the Central Vermont landfill, which is a closed landfill in East Montpelier. This permit is effective for 5 years. However, it can be amended to incorporate changes throughout the duration of the permit. And this facility has been permitted since 1994 with the agency. The permit authorizes the discharge of leachate to the Montpelier Wastewater Treatment Facility at a maximum day volume of 60,000 gallons per day and a maximum day BOD, or biochemical oxygen demand discharge of 1,200 pounds per day. These flow and BOD limits are based on the allocation of capacity issued from the City of Montpelier to the permittee. The agency has adopted this allocation into the permit. A major change in this permit is the removal of discharge points to the Newport Wastewater Treatment Facility, the Barry Wastewater Treatment Facility, the Burlington Wastewater Treatment Facility, and the Essex Junction Wastewater Treatment Facility. This permit only authorizes the discharge to the Montpelier Wastewater Treatment Facility. Another proposed change to this permit is the flow limitation. DEC has adopted a new maximum daily flow limitation of 60,000 gallons per day. Currently, Montpelier receives an average of 19,000 gallons per day of leachate and a maximum of 65,000 gallons per day of leachate. And unlike the old permit, the new permit puts a ceiling on the maximum day volume that can be discharged to the wastewater treatment facility. It also maintains the existing 1,200 pound per day BOD limit to protect the wastewater plant's operations and organic capacity. So this new permit's actually more restrictive because the flow limit is less than the maximum flow received by the wastewater treatment facility in the past. The next condition I'll go over is the leachate monitoring condition. We're expanding the amount of leachate monitoring required under this permit. Monitors requiring for the conventional pollutants such as BOD, total suspended solids, and pH. We're also proposing quarterly monitoring for a suite of priority pollutant metals, and we've added a few additional metals, including aluminum, iron, and molybdenum. Monitoring is now required for nutrients, total phosphorus, and total nitrogen, given the concerns regarding nutrient loading to the Lake Champlain Basin. Monitoring is also required for PFAS, using modified EPA method 537 until a Clean Water Act approved method is released. And once that Clean Water Act approved method is released, which is currently in development, that will be required of the permit. The last constituent is our priority pollutants. And priority pollutants are a suite of toxic pollutants that include metals, VOCs, SVOCs, pesticides, PCBs, dioxin, and monitoring is required for that suite of pollutants twice per year. Another new monitoring requirement that we're proposing as part of this permit is monitoring at the receiving wastewater treatment facility, so monitoring at the Montpelier wastewater plant. The goal of this monitoring is to monitor the impact of the leachate on wastewater treatment facility operations, determine the removal efficiency of pollutants across the wastewater treatment facility, how well the wastewater plant is at removing those pollutants, and assess the impact of leachate on the wastewater treatment facility's effluent quality. This monitoring serves as an indicator of whether the wastewater treatment facility or its effluent quality is being adversely impacted by receiving the leachate. It also provides the data necessary for us to support the calculation of limits on the leachate if necessary. We've defined specific locations that this monitoring must take place, specific methods, specific monitoring procedures to ensure that the monitoring is going to obtain representative data for us. The next condition is another environmental monitoring condition, well, a environmental monitoring condition. This condition requires the in-stream monitoring at the Winooski River for PFAS, or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. This monitoring is required upstream of the discharge point of the Montpelier Wastewater Treatment Facility and downstream of the discharge point of the, of the Montpelier Wastewater Treatment Facility. This monitoring is required seasonally in May, July, and September. And this data is necessary for us to determine concentration of PFAS in surface waters attributable to the discharge, and it will support the development of site-specific water quality standards to protect the environment and public health if necessary. Sampling. So our permits requiring specific sampling methodology, sampling points, and specific collection procedures to ensure accurate and representative data. And, excuse me, this sampling methodology is consistent with the sampling that we're using under our plan to develop a water quality standard for PFAS. Excuse me. Final condition I'll review today is the condition which requires the permittee to develop and implement a pilot system for leachate treatment. The goals of this study are to establish design criteria and an implementation schedule for a full-scale leachate treatment system. Through agency review, ensure that leachate treatment system is properly designed, operated, and maintained to provide consistent and reliable treatment of the leachate. And it's also one of our goals is to provide the necessary information for the agency to develop a treatment standard or a technology-based effluent standard for the leachate. The timeline of this project, within the first 4 months, within 4 months of the effective date of the permit, we expect the permittee to submit a plan outlining the details of the pilot study. This plan will be subject to public notice and public comment. 1 year from the effective date of the permit, we expect the permittee to implement the pilot study and begin the data collection phase. 3 years from the effective date of the permit, we expect a final report on the findings of the pilot study. And throughout the duration of the study, we're requesting quarterly progress reports. So, excuse me. So we can keep our finger on the pulse as the study progresses. As I mentioned before, following the report, A&R intends to determine the full-scale treatment implementation schedule, as well as develop standards for leachate treatment. So, in summary, the draft permit does not authorize the discharge to the Lake Memphremagog watershed. The draft permit is more restrictive on the amount of leachate discharged. There's a significant increase to monitoring of the leachate at the wastewater treatment facility and in the receiving water. The pilot project is being proposed to collect data to support the implementation of a long-term leachate treatment solution. Public comment will be solicited on the proposed pilot project and compliance schedule, associated with that project. And as always, non-compliance with permit requirements are subject to enforcement actions. Here's a quick summary of the public notice information. We're accepting comments until November 8th, 2021, which the comment period will end at 4:30. Written comments can be submitted online using the agency's platform known as the E&B, or the Environmental Notice Bulletin. We're also accepting written comments via email. There's a link on our website where you can access the draft permit and submit comments. We're also accepting written comments via mail. Excuse me. With that, we will begin the accepting oral comments today. Any person may submit an oral or written comment, including data concerning the draft permit. All statements, comments, data presented at the public hearings will be retained by the secretary and considered in the formulation of the final permit. So a few ground rules today as we go through this public comment process. If you haven't already, please sign up on the sign-in sheet to make an oral comment. We can pass one around if there's anyone who hasn't gotten a chance to sign it. For virtual participants, please type your name in the chat box if you'd like to make an oral comment. We will call your name when it's your turn to comment. We're going to be alternating between in-person and virtual commenters. In person, you can come up and use this microphone to make your comment. If you're virtual, you may unmute when we call your name, you may unmute your microphone, turn on your video if you'd like, and you can state your comment. We're going to be giving each speaker 2 minutes to give everyone a chance to provide a comment, and all comments will be recorded. And with that, we can get started.
Clarifying question?
Yes.
If I'm making a public comment here tonight, may I also submit a written comment?
Yes, since folks only have 2 minutes tonight to make a public oral comment, we encourage everyone to make, if you didn't get a chance to say everything you wanted to say, or if you want to follow up with additional data or resources or attachments, whatever, yeah, we encourage you to provide a written comment and you can elaborate. So with that, I think. Oh, sorry.
So the 2 minutes that we have, if we are tonight, if we ask a question, will we get some response from our questions, specifics?
Tonight we're here to accept your comments. We will respond to all of the comments we received in writing, but otherwise it turns into quite a lengthy evening if we do question and answer, and so really what we want to do is hear from all of you. Again, we'll accept your comments, we'll record them all. We're taking notes, we have a recording of the transcript of tonight, and we want to be able to respond in writing to all of the comments we received.
Well, the reason I asked that, this is a pretty limited performance program that we just set up.
Well, the permit
there's an
is
awful lot of questions about that are general.
And again, if there are process questions, we're happy to answer those, in terms of when.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and you can tell me whether you're answering them. We'll go from there.
Happy to do that. And of course,
It'd be good for everybody to hear the answers to some things. That's all.
Online, is both the permit and the fact sheet. The fact sheet is sort of the English version of the permit, if you will, that explains the basis for the permit. But we'll accept questions, comments on both of those. But really, the best way of doing that is in writing. To get the level of detail that.
Yeah, except people don't hear it.
Well, I mean, we will post all of, that's one thing we may not have mentioned, but we will post all of the comments received and all of our responses. All of that will be public information. It will be posted online on our website. And the lady behind you also has a question.
I have a follow-up question to that. If we have a question that we would like an answer to before we have the deadline to submit comments on November 8th, would we possibly get the answer before then, so that at that point we could have enough information so that we can definitely respond to the permit?
I don't know specifically what question you want to
Right.
ask, but I mean,
You'll
you know,
hear.
we'll give it a shot.
Okay.
But, you know, really what typically we do is to collect all of the comments, you know, because there'll be similarities. 3-4 people will have the same comment. And then we can, you know, we can consolidate those comments and answer at once in terms of, you know, making it clear and full in our response. So, but again, really tonight is about hearing from all of you and your comments on this. And again, you know, also encourage you all to do that in writing as well. In terms of the process for tonight,
We'll start with comments from the room, and we'll alternate between those up here with us and online. And so the first person that we have this evening is, I think it's Samantha Stevens.
I don't think I know how to turn the microphone up. I'm sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm Samantha Stevens. I'm a resident of Charleston, and I'm here to raise concern regarding the lack of evidence of specific regulation, guidelines, or standards for leachate pretreatment in the draft permit. In Special Considerations 5B, it states, by no later than 1 year following the effective date of this permit, the permittee shall have the leachate treatment and/or pretreatment technologies installed and begin the pilot study in accordance with the approved plan. Only 1 year between the issuance of the permit and the start of the pilot study. Within this period, there would also have to have been research for siting, installation of new pretreatment equipment, and development and testing of systems for monitoring, and we heard a lot about a lot of additional monitoring required through this. New systems for monitoring will be required for that. How is it possible to do all of that work in 1 year? For all of the necessary planning and implementation steps to occur within 1 year, much of this work must already have been done. Can you tell me, have the decisions regarding this implementation period already been made? And if so, by whom? And I realize you will not be able to answer that today. Has the site already been determined? And is the only on-site option the Coventry landfill, or have other sites farther from the wetlands and watershed been identified? And I ask that because I've been looking at reports from News VT over the last couple of years, and they're not really inspiring confidence that there are not issues with potential overages in those systems. Who is overseeing the hiring of consultants with expertise in this new field of waste management? Who are we putting our safety into the hands of? Casella? And when the Canadian legal teams start asking all of these same questions, will it be Vermont taxpayers who bear the brunt of this rushed process and its great potential for failure?
Thank you. That's 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. From Teams, will we please have John Burrows unmute and state his comment?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm concerned that there's a likelihood that in 5 years after the moratorium ends, that the dumping of leachate will return to Memphremagog. I'll start off with a question. I asked Secretary Gore and ANR to please fully and transparently describe in writing the negative current and long-term environmental effects of pouring millions of gallons of toxic leachate into Lake Memphremagog. ANR will soon decide the environmental fate of Lake Memphremagog for centuries to come. I oppose this permit because it will likely allow in the future, in 2026, for Casella landfill to pour millions of gallons of toxic leachate into an already polluted South Bay, Lake Memphremagog. There is an assumption that the proposed PFAS removal facility will solve the toxic pollution problem of discharging leachate, but it clearly does not. There is an assumption that this conceptual pilot pretreatment facility at Vermont's only landfill which in a few years could discharge into the Black River only a half a mile from the lake, will solve the pollution problem. This is very far from the truth. The future pretreatment facility as proposed will remove only a few classes of PFAS and will not come close to removing 90% of the toxic contaminants, metals, chemicals, and poisons in leachate. The vast majority of these poisons will flow untreated through this very limited pretreatment process. If approved, the state of Vermont would be giving Casella Coventry landfill permission in the future to discharge leachate into an already polluted Lake Newport. There is clear evidence of a very serious pollution problem given the evidence of cancerous brown bullhead in South Bay and Scotts Cove. There is a clear scientific evidence that the cause, or at least part of the cause, of the cancer in the brown bullhead in Magog is from toxic contaminants. When UV rays or virus are cited as possible causes of cancer, it is always in combination with the contaminants. Every scenario of the cause of the cancer in brown bullhead includes contaminants. As you are aware, cancer in fish is a very rare phenomenon in the United States. The conceptual pretreatment facility...
Excuse me, Mr. Barrows, you're over your 2 minutes. Could you...
Discharge permit application. The location of this proposed facility should be a separate...
Excuse me, sir, you're over your 2 minutes.
The state needs to determine pollution and water quality standards prior to approving this permit.
Excuse me, sir, we're at 2 minutes.
Build a pretreatment facility in Coventry landfill will determine the environmental fate of Lake Newport forever. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Can we please see the online folks on the big screen?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sorry about that.
Thank you.
They may be small, but
That's something I just like to see.
yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. And, you know, again, we're doing the 2 minute thing just so everybody understands, to make sure everybody has an opportunity to say their comments. If at the end, we still haven't hit 7:30, we invite people to come back through. And if you have a lengthy comment and you're not able to get through all of it, please send it in to us in writing or hand it to us tonight so that we can make sure we have that full comment from you.
Thank you, Keith.
And now we're back into the room and
And the next commenter is Peggy Stevens.
okay.
Hi, and just before I start, I have practiced this at 2 minutes exactly. It sounds like I'm yelling at you, and I'm not, okay? I'm just machine gun. My many concerns about this draft permit boil down to the fact that the state has not provided evidence of having developed any regulations or performance standards specific to this brand new leachate pretreatment technology. Without these regs and standards, under what law or rule is A&R proceeding? Without a regulatory framework requiring compliance with specific standards, the result is what we see in this draft. Little, if any, obligation that the most effective state-of-the-art technology and monitoring systems be selected and utilized. Only one of many examples of this deficit is in the special considerations section, section 5, very important section. 5A limits the choice of leachate pretreatment technology to those identified in the 2019 Brown and Caldwell study. Does this language limit consideration of more comprehensive, effective, and expensive designs developed since 2019? Brown and Caldwell described their treatment options as speculative, making assumptions as to effectiveness. I worked in federal and state agencies for 38 years. Their performance standard manuals do not allow for speculation and assumption. They are used to guide planning and evaluate for compliance. Let's face facts. The most effective technology is not the most cost-effective. The greatest responsibility for developing basically every step in this experimental pilot project, including monitoring for safety, has been left to the for-profit corporation whose primary interest is their profit margin. Regulations must require the permittee to choose evidence-based technology proven to be the most effective, not the cheapest. Regs also must require independent oversight by objective third parties to assess health and safety for the environment and public in every phase of this project. The precautionary principle must apply. Time to be open and transparent, get back to square one, write the regs according to administrative procedures, then rewrite a separate draft permit. It is a moral imperative to impose rigorous conditions on this project. Strict regulation is the only way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Teams, we have David Largy. Please unmute and state your comment.
Yes, David Largy from the MRC of Newport. Thank you for organizing the public meeting. Appreciate it. I've got a question on the section 5A, subsection 6 of the pre-treatment permit. It states that the Leachate treatment pilot study plan will be treated as an application to amend the permit, therefore being subject to all public notice, hearing, and comments that are applicable to permit amendments. My question is, are permit amendments subject to the same terms of consultation as a current draft pre-treatment permit? If it's not, I was wondering what were the differences. Thank you.
It's a process question. So, David, thanks for your comment, and the short answer is yes. A permit amendment occurs in the same way that we're proposing to issue this permit in the first place. So it would be the same process, the same consultation with the public, the same hearing with the public. So yes.
Thank you. The next comment we'll take is from Henry Coe.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to comment. I consulted with a speaker who comes after me who will take just 20 seconds, and he has given me permission to go over and use perhaps a minute of his time. My name is Henry Coe, resident of the Northeast Kingdom for 53 years. Kids and grandkids born in Newport. Like others tonight, we love the area and want to see its environment conserved and protected. This permit does not meet that test. It should be separated into two parts. One, the discharge renewal permit for Leachate delivered to the Montpelier WWTF. Two, the pilot pretreatment project for landfill Leachate. The pilot project portion to this permit must be denied or delayed. What is the hurry? Pretreatment of Leachate, a good thing, is too important a societal function to be left in the hands of the solid waste industry alone. Selection of the site, writing of performance and endpoints and standards, selection of unproven speculative technology, self-monitoring, and final disposition of PFAS contaminated filters, membranes, and carbon adsorbents should not be abdicated by the state to a private corporation. No way. Its interests are maximizing profits for its stockholders, as already has been said. The record demonstrates that public health and protection of the environment is secondary. The Coventry landfill is among the worst possible sites for any statewide mega landfill. It lies adjacent, 0 feet from extensive wetlands, 1,800 acres, ironically owned by the state and managed by the state as a South Bay Wildlife Management Area. It has cut off all wildlife migration from east to west. The landfill has. It used to be a bountiful, wonderful area for wildlife. It is no longer. It's been a failure because of the landfill's intrusion. Nor has the state ever, to our knowledge, ever conducted a professional evaluation of the appropriateness of landfill siting. They say it is not in the written rules. That's a cop-out. If the important criteria of geology, proximity to water and wetlands, slope, erosion, and fault zone were to apply and be professionally quantified, the average score would surely be failure. It is 29 years overdue to evaluate this site and to work and find other regional landfill sites in Vermont more suitably geologically, and in closer proximity to population centers in Vermont, which produce most of the garbage. Get away from the diesel transportation-centric model responsible for much of the atmospheric damage and a leading factor in climate change in Vermont. I've heard that 4,500 gallons of diesel fuel are delivered today to supply, in part, the operation of the landfill. Think about it.
Mr. Coe, you're at 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
That's right.
I'll submit the rest in writing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Benoit, please unmute yourself and state your comment.
Yes, my name is Robert Benoit. Good evening, Mr. Aklan. Good evening, Madam Moore. My name is Robert Benoit, resident of Lake Memphremagog and president of Memphremagog Conservation. I speak to you on behalf of Canadians who use the lake as a drinking water reservoir, which is more than 175,000 people from the city of Sherbrooke, Magog, Lennoxville, Bramptonville, Deauville, Rumelville, St. Denis, and more. Here in Quebec, we are concerned about the quality of our drinking water when we learned that PFAS were found at the Sherbrooke and Magog water intake. I have a request and a question. At the August 24th meeting on the future of Lake Memphremagog held in Newport, we heard Secretary Moore state that the moratorium on treatment at the Newport Wastewater Treatment Plant will be extended until 2026. We wait to see a written confirmation following the statement from Secretary Moore. Canadians hope to receive your commitment in a writing document which you can send to Memphremagog Conservation in Magog. Now the question. The new equipment we want to build is designated to treat PFAS in Liche, but it is capable. Will it be capable of treating PFAS well enough so that the water will be completely safe for human consumption? Memphremagog is not just a lake, it is for drinking water. Will you agree that any level of PFAS in the water will bioaccumulate sooner or later in our body? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Benoit. The next commenter is Lindy Sargent.
Before my comments begin, I'd like to just mention one thing. I really have appreciated how the A&R and the state has allowed us to have some of these public comments and ahead of time when the landfill permit for expansion was put out. It was in a little tiny piece of small print in the newspaper. Nobody knew about it. It was extremely discouraging, and this is a far better process, and I really like to hear that we are going to also be able to respond to the next permit. It has been interesting reading the work that has been done by your agency since we last met on August 24th. I have prepared some specific comments attached to specific pieces of the permit, which I will be submitting in writing. They address the lack of specifics that I have noticed in reading both the permit and the fact sheet. The Agency of Natural Resources is asking News Vermont to choose 2 on-site and 2 off-site locations for the pilot project and recommend one of several technologies that Casella thinks will remove PFAS and other priority pollutants from landfill leaching. We do not know the locations right now, nor the technology, nor the plan for how and where any necessary filters might be disposed, nor the plans for regulation. So how do we specifically comment to the permit? And shouldn't this pilot project for the pretreatment facility be individually permitted once these specifics have been clarified? Maybe not just amended, but a separate permit. I would like to again pose the question I asked 2 months ago. How sure are you of the effectiveness in removing PFAS in any of the pretreatment methods that were made in the 2019 Brown and Caldwell report? These technologies are in their infancy, and many questions remain about their success rates. This permit's timeline is way too tight, especially considering the consequences of not removing all PFAS. And a new question: why is Vermont asking to import leachate from Bethlehem, New Hampshire? Would this not be the beginning of accepting leachate from across the Northeast region, thereby burdening Vermont's waterways further with escaping pollutants, and also the roadways with truck traffic, CO2 emissions, and potential spills, several which have occurred in recent history?
Thank you, that's 2 minutes.
Can the wastewater treatment facility in Montpelier even handle this amount of leachate? Thank you for sharing your answers to the questions.
The next on Teams will be Peter Blair. Please unmute yourself and state your comment.
Okay, should I come in and hear me first?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Good evening, my name is Peter Blair. I am a staff attorney with the Conservation Law Foundation Zero Waste Project. Thank you for the opportunity to submit oral comments tonight. We will be submitting extensive written comments before the November deadline. First and foremost, CLF recognizes the steps ANR is taking to address PFAS contamination in landfill leachate. This is critical because our current system of leachate management is not protecting public health or the environment. It allows harmful chemicals like PFAS to be discharged into our lakes and rivers without sufficient treatment. This draft permit can be the first step in moving Vermont away from this current system towards a more sustainable one. However, to ensure the permitting process is successful, the agency needs to take a more active role. As currently drafted, the permit gives Casella too much authority over the goals and boundaries of the pilot project. I think I'm seeing a theme here with most public comments. Specifically, the permit would allow Casella, not ANR, to identify specific operation, performance, economic, water quality, residuals, and air quality parameters that will be analyzed throughout the pilot project. We understand the need to be flexible at the beginning of this process, but ANR, not the permitting, should be responsible for setting these goals and boundaries. You need to set regulations and standards and have the permitting come forward with technology that is capable of meeting them. Additionally, the draft permit does not have any specificity about the scope of the pilot project. The permit does not indicate how much leachate will be managed as part of the pilot project or what the location of the leachate will be. Specifying the quantity is important because it will help the agency determine whether the chosen technology can be scaled to full implementation, which is the entire purpose of the pilot project. It will also help the agency understand the quantity and concentration of the residual contaminated waste that needs to be dealt with. Also, the agency should identify where the leachate is coming from, and we specifically urge you to limit it to the Coventry landfill. This requirement will ensure that the monitoring of the influent and effluent is consistent throughout the duration of the permitting process. It will also make sure that the permittee cannot take leachate from different locations to dilute the concentration of contaminants, which would undermine the monitoring requirements that are now included in the permit.
Thank you,
We'll
Mr.
also
Blair.
provide a better understanding of the concentration of PFAS in the leachate in Vermont's only active landfill.
Thank you, Mr.
I know I'm running out of
Please
time,
let us
so
speak.
we will be submitting more extensive written comments, but thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Our next commenter is Charlie Pronto.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm Charlie Toronto, former mayor of Newport, resident of Newport. I was part of the team that sued the state over the renewal for the dump thing, so we've been along quite a ways. I think my concern has been stated somewhat tonight. You know, we've got a dump, we're producing a whole bunch of leachate. The leachate has to be, something has to be done with it. It can't just left to be leach out. eventually and end up in the lake anyway, so I know we have to treat it. The problem is this permit says that there will be a pre-treatment pilot program to figure out the best way to treat this. But there are no specifics, and that's why I was asking you earlier. Before this is done, there should be specifics. And one of the specifics should be is that Casella is not in charge of this. It should be the state of Vermont that's in charge. You hire the people. You should be hiring the people. You should be hiring. There's a company called BioLargo that's done immense study on this out in California. There's other companies that are out there. The state of Vermont should be hiring it because after all, you're the one that's supposed to be protecting us. I don't trust Casella to protect us. I'm sorry, I just don't. Hasn't happened in the past. I think that's a big failure in this permit, and that ought to be one of the stipulations of the permit, that you are the ones that hired them. You can make Casella pay for it. They're making $1 billion just on this 10-year expansion. So they can afford it. But I think what's really annoying everybody here is that the specifics aren't there. Where is this thing, where are these pilot programs going to be? Where are they going to be located? We don't want one in Coventry. Why are we taking Leachate from Bethlehem, New Hampshire? Why are we allowing Casella to be the one that's heading this program? You are deferring your job to the company that's making a profit. It's kind of like the Fox Garden Hen House. It's just wrong. And that's what, I think that's what everybody here is looking at. Is what you're doing is just wrong. I mean, Leachate has to be treated, we know that. We don't want it here in any respect because, I'm sorry, we already have the dump. You know, we don't need it. It's already leaching out. You know, you've got a 700-foot high mountain out there that is depressing for me every time I drive by it because I grew up here. It's an eyesore. And we're just sick of it. We're just sick of it. So I wish that in your process that you would take control over this and not defer it to Casella because none of us trust them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on Teams is Giles Bellinger. Please unmute and state your comment.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Gilles Bélanger, member of Quebec National Assembly and also Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. It's with a great pleasure to join you this evening as a delegate of the table de concertation des élus du lac Memphremagog representing municipal, provincial, and federal for Memphremagog and Sherbrooke area. We were pleased to hear that the draft permit proposed to revoke the Newport wastewater treatment plant permit. No more leachate treatment in Lake Memphremagog. For us, this is a must. Too bad that this major landfill located near the border with watershed flowing north ever exists. We recognize that ANR aims to be a good steward of environmental resource by being proactive toward contaminants, all new contaminants, using the pre-treatment permit as a tool to collect more information, ask for new environmental conditions, and request to establish of a pilot project for the treatment of PFAS. We agree with this essence of the draft permit. The draft permit seems based on the premise that Montpelier is willing to accept leachate from all 3 Vermont landfills. In the case of a refusal, would that trigger exceptional measures that could allow leachate treatment at a different facility? We also have questions regarding the amount of leachate allowed per day in Montpelier. The draft permit allows for 60,000 gallons per day, but the fact sheet presents an anticipated increase from 60,000 to 100 gallons per day. With this additional leachate, where would it go? The last major concern is about location of the pilot leachate treatment. The draft permit referred to the Brown and Caldwell study, which looked at off-site treatment solution as well as on-site solution. We will be following the situation closely in the amendment to the permit that will be coming up. We are very sensitive to any hint of possible reallowance of leachate treatment or disposal in the Memphremagog watershed. We understand that the pretreatment permit is not an appropriate legislative tool to permanently ban leachate treatment in the Memphremagog watershed, but we will work toward the main goal as long as needed. We are thankful to have this opportunity to comment the draft pretreatment permit. In the past, ANR considered our comments to influence outcome of the project. We will always be in a collaborative mode. Thank you very much.
The next commenter is Paige.
Glad you were able to.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to understand that. We have too many microphones.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Representative Woodman Page, and Newport is my home and my district, and I was born and raised here, left for a time, and then came back home. So here are some of my questions. Does Vermont receive funds for taking leachate from New Hampshire? And why are we taking leachate from outside the state? Will there be other sites from outside of Vermont that will be taking leachate in the future? What system designs are you looking at? I know of 3 at least. Has the treatment plant, has that decision been determined where you're going to be building it? And finally, I will just say that I have some concerns of Coventry landfill, that there will be a dumping ground of leachate for the entire New England area. There'll be more truck traffic, contributing to carbon-producing emissions, along with more wear and tear on our roads. So I'm not supporting this project in the Northeast Kingdom or in Coventry. I prefer it outside of the Northeast Kingdom, and I'd even prefer it to be outside of Vermont. So thank you.
Thank you. From Teams, Teresa Gerard, please unmute and state your comment. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad that the Agency of Natural Resources is renewing this discharge retreatment permit as necessary. I am concerned, however, that the draft permit contains a list of priority pollutants in attachment B, which is actually the EPA's list of priority pollutants that was developed over 40 years ago. A lot has happened in 40 years. A lot, in addition to PFAS. In 2018, when PFAS was discovered in the drinking water in North Bennington, Vermont did not rely on the EPA's standards. They developed their own more stringent standards. This is a precedent they should use again. In February of this year, a peer-reviewed paper written by the University of Missouri experts and the USDA Forest Service prioritized landfill leachate pollutants based on toxicity. In their conclusion, they produced a list of 40 most toxic compounds found in landfill leachate. 15 of those 40 compounds are not on the EPA priority pollutant list. They should be in this draft discharge permit. In 2015, research from the U.S. Geological Survey disclosed that landfill leachate is host to numerous contaminants of emergent concern. Leachate samples were collected from 22 municipal solid waste landfills in 12 states, including Maine and Vermont. The leachate was analyzed for 190 chemicals of emerging concern, including pharmaceuticals. 101 of the 190 compounds were found in the leachate. Many of these are not on the EPA's list of priority pollutants. The monitoring of pollutants in this discharge pretreatment permit must include all of the toxic compounds that have been discovered, not just the ones on the EPA's list. And getting this body of knowledge is what you need if you're going to define and specify and regulate any kind of leachate treatment. So you need this body of knowledge. I'm asking the A&R to determine what is currently in the landfill leachate that is harmful and to monitor for that so it can be used in the specification of a leachate treatment facility. Perform the necessary research and provide comprehensive requirements and specifications based on current data and technology. The technology that they are directing Casella to select is from a study that's 2 years old. A lot has happened since then. Asking an organization that generates the leachate to determine the rules governing its discharge is an obvious conflict of interest. They need to create a separate permit for a leachate pretreatment facility with public hearings and full transparency. Both the private
so you got 2 minutes
and
now.
final facility must be located outside of any watershed of an international lake that is the source of drinking water for our neighbors to the north. Thank you very much.
The next commenter in the room will be Pam Lads.
Thank you for letting me step back so I could get the camera set up, but now I can mess it up again. We are being asked to look at a permit at the time when it's pretty obvious that there is climate change. That does not factor into the permit as we see it. I'm out on Lake Memphremagog many days over the summer. Our lake this year is a mess. It is polluted, it is obviously polluted, blue-green algae, the water level is lower than we've ever had it before, and we can expect, unfortunately, that and other sad things to continue. If we are going to have to deal with leachate, and we are, because we're stuck with the dump. We didn't ask for it, but we've got it. We have to look at leachate in a whole different way. We are making the assumption that the only way to do this is the way it's always been done, which is that it gets released into a body of water. I think that that's a lack of creative thinking. There has to be another choice. This isn't just a Newport problem or a Vermont problem. This is a worldwide problem. Landfills are old technology. Burying crap in the ground is not the way to go in the future. I agree that we're stuck with the leachate and we have to do something with it. But releasing it into a waterway, particularly a waterway where people drink from it, is insane. As climate change continues, and it is continuing, water is going to be our scarcest resource. What the hell are we doing polluting it? We have lost our minds. You, A&R, are tasked with protecting, sustaining, and enhancing what we've got. Please don't screw it up.
At this time, there are no further comments from the chat. If you'd like to make a comment, please type your name into the chat. Otherwise, we can go over to the in-person comments.
Thank you, Michelle. The next comment we have is from Chris Jacobs, please.
Thank you. I intend to be fairly brief. I want to start off by asking Secretary Moore her agency, or telling Secretary Moore her agency mission, by your own words, is to sustain, maintain, and enhance Vermont's natural resources. That is, protect, sustain, and enhance Vermont's natural resources for the benefit of this and future generations. How can A&R hand off the responsibility and not the liability, for this challenging task to a public corporation which is not tasked the charge for our state. I want to add that there's just no way that I can see that there's any way that Vermont should even be considering taking leachate from Bethlehem, New Hampshire. This is Vermont. It is a moral imperative to do the right thing, respect our international neighbors' right to drink clean water, stop overloading Vermont's outhouse on our neighbor's boundary, keep any and all pre-treatment and treatment of toxic leachate out of Memphremagog watershed forever. Thank you.
Would you care to comment? There's a possibly on here. Okay.
That's it, no problem.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions, and I guess I'm wondering, is this a foregone conclusion? And I kind of get that vibe sometimes, and I understand you're in a tough spot. The state's gotten backed into corner by Casella, and what options do they have? And I think if as a group, if we could give you some options, that would help you considerably. But I also have to ask, if DUMP hadn't started, and come out with the concerns they had for this, would this have gone ahead? Would they have gone ahead and released these, this leachate into the lake? I really question that. And I've watched this lake deteriorate for 56 years. That's how long I've had a boat on it. And my concern is it's going to continue if we allow this to happen. And I got to tell you, a lot of it started, and I said this the last time there was a meeting here, that a lot of it started when that sewage treatment plant went in. It can be denied. There's a gentleman here tonight that runs it, and I love the guy, but it could be denied. But I can tell you, it started when that treatment plant went there. And now the dump has been expanded. It's only getting worse. I question if it's really worth the gamble. I was involved when Price Chopper were located up here, and I can remember what they made that company that built that go through with retention ponds and what have you. And it amazed me at the time what they had to go through to develop that site. But yet we're allowing this to happen. So I'm scratching my head. Why are we allowing it? Where's the common sense? And to one gentleman's comment here earlier about suing the state, I had an old wise Vermonter tell me one time, well, you can sue the state, he said, Jim, but they'll outlive you. And so at the end of the day, you can sue and sue and sue. It really doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I'm really concerned also with our Canadian friends. Do we really want to alienate them? Because they support us, we support them, and the thought of putting anything into this lake that could possibly affect the drinking water, which has been said by many tonight, I just can't imagine that we could do that to our neighbors, our good Canadian neighbors. So I see this basically as Casella being Goliath and us being David. And if history repeats itself, David will kick the hell out of Goliath, and I'm sure hoping that happens.
I'm not a sound guy, but.
Thank you.
Next comment is Richard Stibold.
We have a question?
Yes.
Ma'am?
Is Secretary Moore on the call?
No, she's not tonight, but we'll be reporting back all of this. And as you know, we're recording the meeting, so yeah, all of the comments will be available, and as will the recording. I'm sorry.
Mr. Stiebolt was a perhaps, so Patty Jones or Polly Jones? Sorry if I didn't get the name right.
That's okay. I'm Polly Jones. I'm from both Derby and Manchester, Vermont.
I believe that my comments may extend over 3 minutes, but I'm delighted to say that most people who have already spoken have said exactly what I wish to say. First of all, we do appreciate that ANR is trying to reduce the amount of PFAS and other pollutants that are pouring into our Vermont wastewater treatment facilities right now. But we all feel that this particular permit is insufficient for the job. In section 5A, the draft permit states that Casella will choose a PFAS mitigating technology from the 4 choices of the Brown and Caldwell report. None of these experimental technologies listed are completely effective, and they will all have some form of residuals, Those residuals will have to be encapsulated or incinerated. Liners and encapsulation will degrade and will not last forever, but PFAS will. What is the plan? There is no mention in the permit of where the residuals will be stored. Based on that omission, we have to assume that they will be stored in the Coventry landfill, in the Mem for Magog watershed that we are so desperate to save. Why haven't ANR and Casella, or News Vermont, explored treatment and dispersal that are not in this fragile watershed or in another international body of water? How does ANR, whose responsibility it is, and thank you, Chris, to preserve, enhance, restore, and conserve Vermont's natural resources, give Casella the freedom to choose which method will best remove pollutants from leachate and protect us and the environment? ANR should be making the decisions, not Casella. The tail is wagging the dog. According to the first paragraph of section 5, the Secretary will establish regulations on the permissible levels of PFAS allowed in the effluent after Casella constructs a system to filter it. Wait, what? We are relying on ANR to set the standard here before the system to remove it is built. The technology must be suited to the standard and not the other way around. 5E states, and I know I'm going to go over, so just let me go. 5E states that 3 years after the technology is installed, the pilot study will be completed. What size or scale will the pilot study be? How much leachate will it be able to process? How can we be assured that the safety and efficacy will be the guiding factors in the choice of technology, not economy? It bears repeating, this is my last bit, that no matter the efficiency of the technology chosen, the resulting effluent should not be discharged into the Mem for Magog or Champlain watersheds. To do so will be knowingly polluting the already compromised waters and further damaging the economies of the adjacent towns in 2 countries on these 2 lakes. No natural resources or communities should be sacrificed for the sake of industry and profit. Yes. Sure. So I say to you, happy Halloween. And are you scared yet?
Susanna Bowman.
Many of the points that I might have made have been spoken already, which is great. But I would like to repeat my conviction that you cannot give permission to something where the technology does not yet exist. I think everybody here agrees that, and I am floored that you would consider doing that. And then I would also like to know who is paying for the development of this technology? Is it the company who says, oh, we'll do it? Or is it the state of Vermont? Who is paying for this? Is that something you can answer now?
We'll respond to all of that. Thanks.
Okay. Then I would like to know. Then I would just like to tell a little story. Although I am from Vermont originally and lived here for a long time, I went off to seek my fortune, and I've lived in several other states to work. And currently, we also have our old house down in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has closed, as far as I know, all of its landfills. And guess where they're collecting their garbage? From our other house in Massachusetts, on the Connecticut border. Guess what they're doing with it? They're dumping it up here, and they're carting it all the way. And I see those trucks running. And you know, people who live here may not see this, but I see it all over New England. Trucks, the Republic Company, the LaBouffe Company, or all these various other small ones. It's ending up here. So when they talk about Vermont Leachate, they're talking through their hat, guys. It's coming from everywhere already. And what we need to do is find other solutions for the waste, as I'm sure you all agree. So, ANR's, I would like to deliver a lecture here. ANR's real job should be finding ways to eliminate waste, not importing it and dealing with the results. ANR could be spending our tax money developing Vermont's own recycling center. We could deal with our own. We didn't have to dump it. We didn't have to dump it in the dirt or dump it in the water. All states should keep and recycle their own waste and not send it off to a poorer or less populous state or country. ANR could be working with the other New England states to design sustainable systems for the benefit of all New England. Never mind all the rest of the states. Do you agree? Do you agree? All right.
Are you almost done?
ANR could be working. No, I'm not.
You're over your two, you're well over
I
your 2
don't think
minutes.
so. ANR could be working to make manufacturers and suppliers legally responsible for the waste that they generate and profit by, including motor vehicles. We are tired of ANR not fulfilling their job. We're tired of paying in ANR to oversee the exploitation of Vermont's resources and not protecting them. And we're tired of being polite. So.
Ann Chiarello?
That's you. It's been covered.
Okay.
And I agree with everything that has been said.
Thank you. Brian Smith.
Thank you for letting me take this off. Sure. I'm not going to talk probably for the 3 minutes, but I want to hit on something that Jimmy Campbell said about the Price Chopper store. I think we went on a tour that day, and a duck flew up out of the grass, and ANR was on it like flies on a manure pile. So they slowed that project up a little bit, but it happened with our Walmart store as well. I worked in front of the site. I was watching two young ladies walking through a drainage ditch one day with hip boots on, and I walked out behind my shop, and I said, "What are you doing?" They said, "Well, we're looking at the stream." And we're from ANR. I said, "It's not a stream, it's a drainage ditch." Well, that drainage ditch became a stream, and it cost J.L. Davis from Burlington $300,000 to build a proper, what ANR wanted to see, a proper ditch. So anyway, ANR is pretty good about hitting the little guys up. I'd like to see this project stopped. And I wrote this down because I want to get it exactly right. I'm not much at speeches, but it said, "I am opposed to construction of a leachate plant here in our Northeast Kingdom. I will do what I can to help dump in its efforts to prevent this construction from happening." And that's pretty much the extent of what I wanted to say. I think ANR does a pretty good job, but I'd like to see them really scrutinize this leachate plant and, like Representative Page said, put it anywhere else except up here. We don't need it here. We've got it done. Thank you.
Jay Walsh.
Hi everyone, Jay Walsh, I live here in Newport. Before I say what I'm going to say, I didn't realize that this permit was not just for the or the discharge at Montpelier, that it also included this leachate facility, which I think should be a separate issue altogether. So I just want to say that I don't think it's proper to have both of these things put together. It just doesn't make sense. I don't even know how you can do it. So the Clean Water Act's primary objective is to restore, maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters. Issuing this permit will not do that. It will do just the opposite. Vermont State Attorney General T.J. Donovan recently announced that the state of Vermont is suing 3M and DuPont and other manufacturers of PFAS, and so states that it has caused statewide harm to Vermont's drinking water, natural resources, including groundwater and surface waters, and wildlife. He goes on to state PFAS chemicals persist indefinitely in the environment. They are known toxicants and associated with multiple types of cancer. The harmful health effects of PFAS include links to kidney and testicular cancer, also ulcerative colitis, the adverse effects of fetal development during pregnancy, in the liver, and the immune system. In addition, in 2019, Governor Scott signed Act 21 S49, an act relating to the regulation of polyfluoroalkyl substances in drinking water and surface waters. Within this act, it makes clear that the Secretary may impose conditions on a permitted entity based on the health advisory if the Secretary determines that the operation of the facility discharge, emissions, or release may result, that would have helped if I had my glasses on, may result in imminent and substantial endangerment to human health and natural environment. The contamination of our waters with PFAS chemicals do present endangerment to human health and the natural environment, especially in light that they are persistent for decades and also bioaccumulative. By denying this permit for proposal chemicals containing PFAS into our waterways, you will also protect the health and safety of Vermont citizens from unjustified importation of more out-of-state PFAS containing leachate. Specifically, in the case of a state's health and safety regulations, the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution does not apply in this case. It applies to commerce. This is not commerce. If you deny putting PFAS in now from our state, it means you can't take it from other states as well. So that's a key to deny this permit or any PFAS being disposed of. The Supreme Court has long acknowledged that when courts weigh whether public health and safety regulations impose an undue burden on national commerce, it must be borne in mind that the Constitution, when conferring upon Congress the regulation of commerce, never intended to cut the states off from legislating on subjects relating to health, life, and safety of its citizens, and that the Supreme Court's dormant Commerce Clause cases recognize health and safety regulations are primarily and historically a matter of local concern. I request that you deny this permit on the grounds of public health and safety for the citizens of Vermont.
Robert Fortunati.
A lot of good comments tonight. I'm a Coventry resident, and I've been a resident in Coventry since '83.
Can't hear you.
And at the time,
Face this way.
and at the time, well, these are the people that, you know. So, at the time, I live up on a ridge, I could look down, it used to be just a small dump, just a regular dump like every other town in the state. Never did I ever think that this would become something of this magnitude. I didn't raise my hand for it, and I think there's a lot of people in the area feel the same way. What you don't see is the taxpayers of all the state of Vermont, everybody's a stakeholder here. It's not in their it's not in their backyard, so it's not a big deal to them, but it really is here. And I think the magnitude of this thing has gotten so big. Think of the magnitude of this leachate and how it's going to be treated going forward. If what this is turned into, what is this leachate going to turn into? This is in your hands, and think about the future. That's all I'm going to say.
We have another commenter on Teams. Valerie Dillon, will you please unmute yourself and provide your comment?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I was having a little internet problem here, so first off, I just want to say I agree with the comments that have been shared this evening, and we'll be submitting some written information, but I have 2 points that I'd like to highlight. So when the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources realized the immediate threat of preventing contamination of the PFAS and PFOAs, the agency really stepped up, did research, involved experienced experts, and worked a plan based on science and common sense. We need that same savvy again. I also want to point out that the EPA is also struggling with all of this. They're actually going through a process right now to revise the guidelines and standards. Basically, they're studying what the forever chemical situation is as it relates to landfills, associated discharges, wastewater control practices, and even leachate treatment technologies. So there's a lot still at stake. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next commenter is Dale Donahue. Donahue.
Speaking back there.
Can everybody hear me? Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. First up, I want to thank all of our Canadian family for coming over the border to be here. And I'm sure that there'd be a lot more if it wasn't such a difficult time. So please give them a hand for being here. Good. And I want to thank Canadian Art for allowing them to be here to give their input as well. For me, I'm a lifetime Vermonter. I was born in Hardwick, grew up in the Champlain Valley, and I moved back to the Northeast Kingdom about 22 years ago. And I started fishing the Lake Memphremagog, approximately 50 years ago. And the way the fishery is now, compared to what it was 50 years ago, it doesn't even compare. We're trolling, we're picking up bullpout, hitting a trolling lure, if anybody understands that, that's pretty rare. Catching northern pike that we call the unicorn pike, because in the middle of this now there's a growth. So, I want to ask, has there been any testing done that goes down 12 inches in the mud? I don't think there has. I couldn't find any research online that stated that there was. If there is, I would really appreciate somebody notifying me of it. And it is just so frustrating to see that the Northeast Kingdom has become the dump location for the world. That's how it feels for me. It's just such a shame. My wife and I, we own one business in town, We're a major shareholder in another, we own several properties. And we have to start thinking that if they're gonna allow more sludge from other states as well as from here in Vermont, maybe it's time for us to relocate. And as much as I hate the thought of that, because I love this state, and I really, really think that it's time for us to stand up and say, enough is enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Patrick Curley?
Good ears, I wouldn't have heard myself back there.
Oh yeah, like a hawk. My name is Patrick Curley. I work for the Memphremagog Watershed Association. I'm also a consulting hydrologist and water resource scientist. I have a few concerns that I want to express today, mostly related to the resilience and kind of securities and emergency plans surrounding this permit. I've noticed that the whole arrangement is set up as an acceptance rate, an allowance in Montpelier based on BOD. I think that's wholly inappropriate. Biological oxygen demand is a wastewater, a municipal and domestic wastewater metric. We're not talking about organics. We're talking about persistent chemicals. So I encourage ANR to reevaluate the use of that metric as a huge standard in the volumetric acceptance. We are not actually reducing the amount. We're increasing volumetric by allowing them to take the 90th percentile of daily flows in Montpelier. 60,000, yes, less than their maximum of 65,000, but it's still well above the 23,000 it was at. I also think it's very unclear as to the emergency plans or mitigation plans or responsibilities associated with any potential spills of trucking all of that material. We saw what happened in Bethlehem last fall, or this summer I should say. We're not prepared to deal with that. I think the fact that there's only on any given day 4 to 8 days holding time in terms of tank storage up there. What happens if we get an Irene and all of a sudden that thing's leaking like a sieve? I haven't heard a single word about reducing the production of leachate. I mean, you guys can hold them to the fire. You can tell them, you know, get geophysicists out here, get geotechnics out here, reduce that infiltration, reduce the volume, get a hold on it. Don't give them expansion so that we can just produce more liquid. And then finally, I just think it's time to be looking at a different site. You know, hydrogeologically, it was probably one of the worst parts in Vermont for that thing to be located. I'm not blaming anybody in this room. At least I don't know if you're responsible. But it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be expanded upon. We should be treating it. We shouldn't be subjecting other communities to treat our garbage. We should also be preventing other communities from bringing our garbage here. So thank you.
We have one more person online. Michelle?
Yeah, we have Teresa Gerard would like to ask another quick question. Please unmute yourself, Teresa.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering, based on what you've heard here tonight, specifics, will you consider tightening up this permit to test for a more current list of pollutants? And if so, what is the process when you make an amendment to a draft before it's been granted, a draft permit? Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. I can respond to the second part of that question, which is the process is we're accepting all of these comments. We'll consider all of the comments compared to the draft. We'll make necessary changes to the draft permit, and we'll respond to all of the comments, whether we're changing the permit or not, and as to, you know, our official response to comments received. So we've heard a wide range of comments tonight. And again, we really do appreciate and thank you all for providing those comments. We'll respond to each and every one that we receive, and then we'll make whatever changes to the draft. The permit remains in draft, and then finally the permit will then be issued. And you know, at that point, then the permit becomes appealable. So, you know, that's sort of a broad overview of the process.
And then to speak to your question regarding amendments, major amendments are required to go on public notice in the same way that this permit is currently on public notice, with the same comment period and hearing, same laws apply.
Ma'am, is it a process question, or would you like to make a comment?
It's actually kind of a little bit of both.
Okay.
So,
If it's a comment, please come up so that we can record you, so that we make sure we get the full comment. Thank you. And I was going to say, you know, we're now through our list of both online and in the room folks that would like to comment. If there are others, we've still got a little while. If there are others that would like to provide comment, please feel free to do so.
And please just state your name.
Yeah, just state your name so we have that.
so my name is Martha Sylvester. So my question is, I'm sitting in here and we're all supposed to be having a discussion about what is in this permit and if we want this or not, and you're asking our opinion, but you're handing a blank sheet of paper to us. How do we have an informed discussion when it's left up to Casella, who I've been asking for well over a year, and been flat out told, no, they're not going to tell us what's in this pre-treatment. They're not going to talk about the pilot program. You can go back to Coventry Select Board minutes and check that if you'd like. So I just feel like this is a fugazi. In Vermont, our democracy depends on us being able to have a say in what we are governed by. And again, I just want to say that I'm appalled that A&R is not giving people the information they need to make a sound decision. So I feel like this is a fugazi, honestly. And I see you.
On Teams, Robert Greenlaw would like to make another comment. Go ahead, Robert.
Mr. Laflamme, let me resume the summer in a minute. One of the worst summer we ever had with cyanobacteria on the lake. As president of NCI, we're getting pictures every day coming from all over the lake about really bad cyanobacteria. We got zebra mussel now right to the border in the United States. They will be in the United States next summer, even if you request a passport. Invasive species are now there, all over the lake. The boats are bigger in size and in number. The last study we have will be near 5,000 boats on that lake. The lake is lower than ever before, people will tell you. The world is warming up. Water is getting short in drinking well. The only thing now we need is PFAS in the lake. Mr. Laflamme, we appreciate Quebec Vermont. You come down to Quebec, we go down to the United States, it's great. Will it be possible, you think, to organize a similar meeting that you had in the United States in Mega with the provincial, the MRC, the federal government, we all on the line, and we will be pleased to organize a meeting with Mrs. Moore, yourself, and all your experts to explain to Quebecers and Canadians what's the real issue in that discussion that we have. Every time you go through politicians or people like myself, but it will be good if you talk directly to the population of Quebec, and I'm making a big welcome to you. We will organize it. It will be very polite, very well organized, and then you can explain to Quebecers and Canadians what it's all about. Thank you, Mr. Laflamme.
My name is Mike Deland. I'm a city resident, and I live a mile, if not closer, to the dump. And I feel sad, because basically it's all about money. And like, Casella makes money, Coventry makes money, and the city of Newport made money. When we were taking the Liche for like under the radar for about 10 years. And I knew that once we started getting involved, we realized that they didn't do the wet tests. And the wet test is supposed to be so great. But for 10 years, they didn't do it. And the reason why they didn't, because they didn't want them to know. They took the leachate for 10 years under the radar without knowing. So is this what's going to happen with this thing that they're going to dump the Black River now? We're going to just turn our heads and just say we're not going to do no testing? Or say we're going to do testing? It's pretty sad when, like Charlie says, we already got the dump. So now there's a leachate problem. It always has been a leachate problem. So maybe, since it comes from Massachusetts, it's coming from New Hampshire, it's coming from everywhere, maybe it's time they share on the problem. Because it's not just our problem. And as far as recycling, yeah, it's great. But I know what's going to happen. You can go zero. We can, not any of us, send anything to that dump. You're going to tell me not to send stuff up to Massachusetts? You damn well they will. Because when they have these hazardous waste things, oh, I know there's one thing on there, asbestos. You can't have that. Well, there was an accident that went off the interstate, and it dumped a whole load of asbestos. They were so worried about it. Well, that asbestos, you know where it was going? It was going up here.
Yep.
So, when you have your hazardous waste, what do? Take it, turn around, come to Lindenville, go back up here and dump it? Who knows? I don't trust the state, I don't trust Casella. And I'm sorry. And it's right in my front yard, not my backyard, and it's within a mile. And I think it's sad. It's so sad that we are not looking to our neighbors up north, because we depend on them too. And that's their drinking water. And it's so sad. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay if I talk again?
Sure.
So we've got 15 minutes here. I don't intend to take any much time. So I think we have time now. The one standing question that's coming out here tonight is, can you give us information on where the pilot program for the pretreatment is being considered? Can you give us information on whether or not the state is willing to take that process over? Because, as I mentioned before, having Casella do it is just unbelievably wrong. The state of Vermont should take it over. You still have time to do that, I assume, in this permit, if you change your mind, because nothing's been set. Hire companies, charge Casella the cost to do it, and get it done properly. But can you give us information tonight? I mean, I know you've had discussions with people, and we all are a little frustrated that we get to speak, but we don't get any information back. I think you all know we don't want it here, and that's pretty important. We all know we have to treat the leachate, which I said before, but the state really should be doing this. I'm curious why you guys aren't doing it, why you're deferring it.
Do other folks have comments?
So there's no comment.
Well, as I said at the beginning, as I've said consistently, we'll respond to all of the comments we receive. We have heard those comments several times tonight, and we've recorded it all, and we'll respond to all of this.
Respond, you're right here in front of us.
Right. I mean, this is it's our process. We want to be thoughtful in our responses. We want to involve others at the agency in our responses. So we will respond in writing.
But where? To whom? Yeah, right.
Sorry, one at a time, please, ma'am.
Where?
Where we'll develop that response to comments, and we'll post it on our website.
Right. How many older people know how to get on your website? Right.
I mean, we'll also distribute it to the same list of folks that we sent you can sign up, a person can sign up on our website as an interested person, send us your email, send us your address, and we will mail it to folks in addition to putting it on our website.
But I have friends here who have no idea how to get onto our website. I want the stuff in my hands. I want your information here, not there. I want to be able to know exactly what you're proposing, exactly the answers to these questions tonight. I don't want it on a website.
Thank you. Several different questions.
Is the
I'll just go around this way, sorry.
Is the ANR having any second thoughts or regrets about having approved of the expansion of the landfill?
You know, again, I can't speak to
There you
that.
are.
I mean, we're, again, as I said in the beginning, we're the water program, the landfill program is an entirely different division. And, you know, I'm sorry, I know that you all see us as representatives of the state and across all different disciplines, but that's just not the situation. We're here tonight to talk about the water permit, the pre-treatment permit, and that's our area of responsibility.
But you're not talking about it. That's the frustrating part.
Sir?
You made a statement, so I'm asking you for a reply on this. You just made a statement that when the permit is approved, it can be appealed. So you did not say when it's approved or denied, it can be appealed. So to me, you're saying tonight that you guys are going to approve this permit. Am I correct? I'm asking you to your statement.
Yeah, I mean, okay, when the permit is either approved or denied, both actions are appealable. They're both action decisions of the secretary, and they're both appealable.
So you have the ability to deny this permit?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we're asking.
Peggy, I'm sorry, sir, Peggy was waiting before.
I really understand everybody's frustration. I'm not here to yell. I want to tag on to what Charlie was talking about, and I want to offer an alternative that I think is really sound. And I've written down about it before, but I'm going to talk about it in this room. And it's about looking at taking control of solid waste as a public utility, and about involving citizens in a board, just like for electricity or anything else, that's considered to be a necessity to everybody. Solid waste management is a necessity of life for around the world. And so why cannot we take it out of the hands of a private, for-profit corporation and approach it as a state? And in that event, because we all know here, most of us anyway, that we want an alternative landfill, why not look at siting this leachate management facility where an alternative landfill can also be developed? And that way, we solve all of these problems at once and really take responsibility as a state for the solid waste management problem that it is today, and really be proactive about finding solutions.
Everyone that left their emails tonight,
Yes.
will you be responding to those emails?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yes, and if you haven't left your email yet, please do so before you leave. But yes, we'll develop a list and we will respond to all of those emails. In addition to the website, in addition to our environmental notice bulletin, which I know is clunky, but that is what we have right now.
I'm from Vermont and I live in Utah part of the time. And so I want to keep in touch with all of this. And so I want to keep being informed. I am a Vermonter. I was born here. I used to fish with my dad on Lake Benford-Magog. I am a Vermonter and I am really interested in what's happening.
And do we have your email address, ma'am, so that we can get a hold of you either? Okay, great, thank you. Sir?
So I just had the same question as Brian, you already answered that, where people who gave their email addresses, you will be providing us with the responses to everybody's questions.
Yes.
Now, everybody on the website or on Teams as well, everybody, got to sign in for all of them with their email addresses too?
We don't have the team's address. We don't collect email as part of the team's address.
I mean, it might be just a good idea, just everybody's involved.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just noting, for those of you in the chat, please put in your email or in the chat if you would like.
Thank you. No, thank you for bringing that up, sir. Ma'am?
We'd like to have a timeline for when we can expect to either see it on the website, share it with people, have it in the paper, know what's exactly been done. But my main question to you is, like, you've heard from all of us, and it's been quite unanimous. Although I know there's representatives from Casella here who haven't spoken. However, I feel that there's a lot of other people in the state, and I'm wondering who you are listening to. Who are the other sectors of folks who you are reaching out to in the next Montpelier meeting and any other modes of doing this? So we know who's listening. Are they going to be able to hear our concerns? Is this going to be advertised? How is that? How are all these comments going to be shared so that people know to either read them on the website or be able to see them and know who else is commenting and what they're saying?
Well, as you mentioned, we are having a public meeting much like this in Montpelier on Thursday night, day after tomorrow, and then we will be putting all of the comments we receive on the website. We will be distributing it, as we mentioned. It will become public information in that way, and it's able to be shared. But I
guess it's just, I want to know when I can start looking. I'm really interested in the feedback on this, and I'm really interested in your deciding criteria for how you're going to make your decision when you've already heard from a group of people who are very interested in seeing this permit.
No, thank you. The public comment period, as we mentioned, is open through November 8th, so we'll be collecting comments up until that date. And then there will, as we've heard tonight, there are a number of different comments, and in total, when we collect all of the comments in writing, there'll be quite a pile of comments to work through and develop responses to. So it won't be November 9th. It will be, I would guess, a number of weeks after that before we're able to produce that final list of responses and make decisions around the comments received. So I don't have an exact date, but I can tell you it won't be the day or two after. There will be substantial comments received in total. So, sir?
Yeah, so transparency for Casella themselves as far as budget, their investment in this, are we going to see that? Do they even want to do this? Is it just assuming that because it's their waste facility that they want to even deal with this leachate? So this is just a problem to them. So some transparency on their investment in it, and is it enough of an investment to be a viable solution?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm not going to rag on you much anymore. So when will this permit be decided?
As I was mentioning to the lady behind you, we accept all the comments, we consider all of the comments, we make adjustments to the permit, we provide responses to the comments received. That will take a while. Given that it closes on November 8th, I would say the end of the year, perhaps into January. Then that's a rough, Amy's not elbowing me in the ribs yet when I say that. So, it'll take that amount of time.
So if after comments, you look at this and you say, okay, we've now decided that the state of Vermont will take over the study and the set the guidelines for how the leachate is going to be processed in the future, the pilot program. So that's what we're all hoping to do. And you did that, and then, so you redraft this permit before you make a decision on it. Is there a public comment period? Is there another meeting at that point once you finalize what this thing's really going to look like?
It's a very good question, and there's not a firm answer to it. It depends on the extent of the comments, or the changes to the permit. If we're changing a few minor things in a permit, typically we don't go through another round of public meetings. If we had extensive changes to a permit, then we, in the past,
that would
made
be
a decision to go back.
That would be a pretty extensive change.
Exactly.
So, I'm just, I guess what I'm getting at is there another opportunity for public comment before you make this decision?
I mean, we don't have one planned right now, but again, we need to consider all of the
I
comments.
mean, ultimately, we'd like one of us to be sitting on you guys are sitting down discussing. You keep saying, but have you considered, but have you considered?
Thank you, sir.
So, my name is Mike McLeese, and I just moved to Newport Center about 4 months ago. And my comment is mostly to the people in the room who don't want to do this. I can't tell you how impressed I am, how much deep thought, study, and I've been just deeply moved tonight by this community. It feels like a community, and I hope I can be a part of the solution. Thank you all.
We'll be winding down soon, but sir, please go ahead.
If the state, or if A&R decided that they would like to take this up with the state to see if the state would take it over, that probably would be a process that would have to go before the General Assembly, isn't it?
That's, I was looking at the gentleman next to you, but yes, I mean, that's certainly something.
Well, let's see if we can make that happen then. That'd be good, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And perhaps one last comment from this gentleman?
Yeah, I'd like to just make an observation and then perhaps ask a question. When I read through your comments, including the FOIA request that we made, I noticed that A&R staff focused on the end-of-pipe solution. At that point, we were discussing reclassification of the Black River to accept effluent from the pilot project treatment plant. I felt that was irresponsible. All emphasis should be to prevent and separate incoming pollutants. You don't cut pollute. You don't kill a snake by cutting off its tail. You sever its head. That's one. And then the question is, in the expansion permit hearing period, we had a group like this and assembled 70 to 100 people. We counted and we submitted approximately 70 comments that either questioned the permit expansion or objected to it. We got a response summary of our comments the day that A&R issued the permit. There were 0 comments in favor of the expansion other than Casella, and I felt that Casella comment was inappropriate to be received. So the question is, if we have a unanimous statement tonight, concerned, and in some cases objecting or asking for denial of this permit, will we be heard? Or is this process a farce?
Sorry, can someone maybe, we didn't hear that on the Teams, kind of breaking a little bit. I don't know if there's anything to restate.
The only thing I'll restate, Michelle, is I guess there is a question on the chat, there's an online question as to whether or not we'll post the video of tonight's meeting, and yes, we will do that. So that will be again on our website.
Hi, Michelle. There's a question on the chat regarding whether or not we'll post the recording of the public meeting, and we will post that on our website.
Okay, great. Yeah, there was a question in the chat as well. So for everybody, just clarifying again, the recording to this will be posted on our website.
And again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank you all for your comments and your time tonight. And again, as I've said several times, we'll be responding to all of those comments received. So thank you all.